You guys have a blue screen on yours or a blue square? Or is that just me?
Well, I have you also, though.
Okay. Yeah, I had a blue square. I didn't know whose that was.
It just says commission room.
I assume that's going to be Chad, huh? And probably Mr. Steen as well.
Oh, Robert, it looks like you're talking, but you're on mute.
Look at that. I was on mute. I was just going to say thank you very much. I don't expect that we're going to have Commissioner Steen with us at 1 o'clock. He's part of the canvassing board, and he and Birch are involved with that. I think there's some question even if they'll be available at 3:30 to jump over. Rick has said that he will be here for that, but Birch may still be tied up with canvassing board, as Mike as well. So I know that's where Rick is. I'm just taking a look to see if Chad is on. Commissioners, I see Commissioner Pollock, Commissioner Breitling, Commissioner Sherling.
It's a quorum.
There you go. Okay. Well, I think we might as well get. I was trying to go through my bring up my see if I can see the full list of who's not showing up on my screen.
Would you like me to just go ahead and take the roll call?
I would say go ahead and take the roll, as we do have a quorum.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Peterson, Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mr. Steen, Mr. Pollock,
Here.
Mr. Breitling,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Miss Ferguson, Miss Ravinius,
Here.
Mr. Johnner,
Here.
Mr. Montplaisir, Mr. Benson,
Here.
Mr. Prochniak,
Here.
Mr. Brooks, Miss Hipsher, Mr. Pappenfuss.
Here.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and lead this. I don't remember who has led previous meetings, but I'll just jump in if unless there are objections, and we can get through the information that we have back from Gallagher. First item on the agenda is consider approval of the previous meeting minutes.
So moved. Breitling.
Is there a second?
Second from Benson.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? There you go. Motion passes. Okay, well, item number 2, consider Gallagher recommendations on reclassification requests. Obviously, we have now received feedback from Gallagher on the positions that we submitted for review, for PAQ review, and we would be looking for action by the POC to approve those recommendations. And Cindy, if you're on, if you wanted to speak to those at any additional detail. I think we reviewed these at the last meeting. There are some department heads on here that would look to. I would look for feedback or thoughts on the recommendations from Gallagher as we move through the specific positions. But Cindy, if you wanted to just talk briefly to the different requests that we submitted.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. The requests we've submitted included the administrative support specialist for emergency services. That position is currently classified as a B-22 clerical position, and I think due to the increased responsibilities, Mr. Prochniak was looking to move that to an assistant emergency director or assistant emergency manager. And then the maintenance labor, the shop and grounds labor, and the truck driver and the engineering technician are all seasonal positions at the highway department. Those have not been looked at or had not been looked at ever, I don't believe, because they were kind of just decided within what to do with them. So it was voted to send those in. And then the next two positions, it's been many, many years since those had been looked at, the receptionist clerk in the state's attorney's office and the office assistant. And the final position that was sent in for a reclassification actually is a new position in the tax appraiser's office. Mr. Fracassi is looking to potentially give his staff a spot to grow to or something to aspire to, and so that was sent in for that. So that would be the positions we had looked at.
So it's Commissioner Pollock speaking. Is there anyone, does anyone have any objections to any aspect of the report? Or disagreements or questions? So I think what I'd like to do then, if no one has anything that they're concerned about, is to make a motion to accept all of the classifications and direct them to be applied at the appropriate time.
Commissioner Pollock?
Yes.
This is Sheriff Johnner. I don't have any objections. I was just simply going to ask, and this probably would have to be for Robert or whatever. So the Gallagher report, is that everything, or did that all that information come back on, I guess the pay comparisons as well? Is that in that report, or is that somewhere else?
Sheriff John, or members of the board, let me get to that. First, I just want to mention that I have just been exchanging some text messages with Commissioner Peterson, and he's trying to join the meeting and has been trying to join the meeting, but was only able to join as a not as a participant, but basically as an observer. So I understand that he is hearing our meeting, but he is not able to participate. Catlin, if you have any an idea of why that is, I guess I'd like to try and get Commissioner Peterson involved in the meeting before there's an action on that. To give you a second to work on that in response to Sheriff Johnner's question, yes, we have more information coming from Gallagher shortly. This is the annual specific PAQ request that we do, where individual department heads can submit positions that they'd like to have reviewed. We also, every third year, typically have the overall salary survey. We have received that information to date, but you'll recall that this year, as part of the process, we asked for them to go a little further, and they were going to take a look at really their methodology of how they put this survey together, and if they have any recommendations of kind of the structure of our salary matrix, or where that any movement that might be recommended. And that is coming. Cindy and I talked to them last week, and so we will bring that forward when they have that additional information ready to go, as well as feedback on commission salaries and benefits. So they are doing more work this year. We had originally asked for that to be done earlier than their typical schedule. I think the COVID-19 response delayed their work product there, but we do have more information coming. That will come at a later date, but we hope that will be sooner than later. Obviously realizing that there may be budget implications there, so it needs to move quickly.
Thank you, Robert.
Robert,
Yes.
I'm just going to jump in here just as a point of order. There's a motion on the floor. I'll second that motion, and then we can have discussion.
My apologies for getting in the way of the order.
No, that's fine. I'll second it and then continue.
Okay. With a motion and a second, all in favor?
Well, you can have discussion.
Should we have some discussion?
Indeed. Discussion on the motion or questions for myself or Cindy?
This is Commissioner Breitling. Jason, do you have any input? Because 4 of those classifications were from your department.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. As far as the different changes or recommendations, I don't have any concerns with those. My one question was, we discussed at the last meeting that currently we have a policy where we're paying those employees at 92% of the graded position, and going back and doing a little more investigation into that, it appears that happened about 10 plus years ago, when we still had some Vector employees that were actually employed by Fargo, and we were trying to stay more online with Fargo's salary for some of their temporary people. But to me, it appears that, if Gallagher has done this review, we should just be at whatever the pay grade is, instead of trying to self-manipulate the pay grade. And I guess, Cindy, if you have any comments on that, but that would be my only other recommendation, is that we just pay at 100% of that rate.
The only comment I would have, Mr. Benson, is that it would take an amendment of our county policy manual, employee handbook, and that would not be a major issue to change that with the commission's approval. Okay, so that's actually in our policy manuals, that it's 92% then. It is, that is correct. Okay, well, I guess if that's the case, then thanks for letting me know that. I didn't realize that was in that. So I mean, I guess I thought it was a personnel overview committee change, but I don't think we're going to have employees leaving because of that, but we want to remain competitive in our ability to hire our seasonal employees, which aren't always the easiest to hire.
Is that a matter that should be on an agenda for future commission meeting?
Commissioner Breitling and other commissioners in the committee, it certainly can be on a future commission meeting agenda, which it ultimately would end up there. But it is also an item that could go to the commission as a recommendation from this committee if you want to amend that policy.
Commissioner Pollock speaking. I think it's something that we would want to take up at budget time.
Yeah, this is Jason. I think that seems reasonable. I know, within the highway department, it doesn't make up, our seasonals don't make up as big of a portion of our overall personnel budget, but definitely Vector Control, that does have, would have a larger impact.
Well, you know, and the other thing is, if what we're doing is working, then what's the incentive other than to make the change?
That's a good point, Commissioner. And, you know, yeah, just one, I agree. We are getting employees right now, and I think it's worth future discussion, but not something that has to be decided here, and apparently can be decided here. So that's good.
Board members, I apologize. We've got some text and email communications between myself and Catlin and Commissioner Peterson as we're trying to get him into the meeting and still having challenges with that. So I've been, if I look like I've been distracted, that's where I've been focusing my attention.
So we do have a motion, and you probably want to deal with that.
Yeah. Any other comments with the motion on the floor? Hearing no other questions, comments, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Well, that was all we had for agenda items there. Again, as Sheriff Johnner mentioned, there is a significant amount of additional information that's going to be coming from Gallagher in the sort of revamped salary study. And I think we're going to have that. Cindy and I expect to have that in the next couple of weeks. And we will bring that to you just as soon as we have it. But we didn't want to bring it in drips and drabs until we had all the information. So look forward to continued discussion and agenda items on that information as we receive it.
Robert, this is Commissioner Breitling.
Commissioner.
I'm assuming we're about ready to adjourn, but I have a question for Jason, unrelated to this meeting. There's an item on the bills for Houston Engineering for some $24,000. Can you tell me what that's for?
Commissioner, I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that was for a bridge design.
It didn't explain, it just said Houston. It didn't explain what the service was.
I'll quick look that up and get back to you with an answer.
Well, that you'll be at the meeting at 3:30?
Yep, I'll be online or on the call for that. Yep.
Right. There was one other item that I was curious about, and there was a substantial amount paid for mowers. Was that a line item budgeted?
Correct. That was a budgeted line item.
All right, thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. We will reconvene for the rotational at 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Robert?